All right, welcome everybody to the CANAM Fantasy Podcast. I'm your host, Tyler Ram. I'm filling in for Ryan today. Today we got Aetan. Aetan, how you doing?
I'm doing pretty good, buddy. All excited for next week of football here. I just want to get this opportunity to bring this up again. My 4-0 team is about to face the 4-0 team is about to face the 0-4 Tyler team this week. I'm excited to give Tyler his fifth consecutive loss to start the season and to get my fifth win in a row to start the season. So I'm excited for this week's matchup of football, and I'm excited to talk some football with you guys today.
All right, Aetan, I could agree with some of that. I too am excited about our matchup, but I'm excited to give you your first loss. I'm probably more excited about giving you your first loss than I am about getting my first win in CANAM. So yeah, that's gonna be fun when I knock you off your pedestal. Just remember that's the two-time champ over here. Okay. All right. We also got Randy here. Randy, how you been?
I'm doing pretty good. You know what? I'm excited that we have football. That scare was something else, and I'm just happy we skated through week 4. I'm hoping that things kind of sort themselves out going forward and we don't have a scare like this and we just have a full season of football and definitely fantasy football. That's what I'm here for.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, we're right into the swing of things. Last episode, if you want to check it out on our CANAM page, we talked about how our seasons have gone in the first 4 weeks of the season. The quarter of the season's over. So we talked about, who our fantasy MVPs for the season were, how injuries affected our team, that kind of thing. So if you're interested, make sure to like and subscribe to the CANAM Fantasy channel, and you can check out all of our previous videos. Today, we're going to try to jump back in time to draft night and see what we would have done differently if we knew what we know now. So the first question I have for you guys is, for players that you were fading, and by fading I mean not drafting as high as their ADP, pushing them a little bit further back in drafts, of those players, who are you regretting fading right now? Aetan, how about you? Who are you regretting fading?
Well, the funny thing about this is I'm going to come out and say the player that I regretted fading, but then in the main pool, everyone else in the pool faded him, and I actually got him about 9 spots below his ADP at the time, and that's Stefon Diggs. This guy is, he's a top 5 receiver in the NFL right now in terms of fantasy and also in terms of, the eye test. I mean, this guy's taken a Josh Allen mediocre quarterback, at least passing-wise, and he's turned him into a fantasy superstar. This kid is unbelievably talented. We knew that in his Minnesota days, and seeing him thrive in Buffalo shouldn't be as big of a surprise as it was to all of us. I guess everyone was a little scared of the no preseason and the everyone trying to get used to a new team and a new system. But Stefon Diggs was ranked as the 27th overall wide receiver before draft, and he's definitely returned value in tenfold based on that. I mean, I got to say he is by far the biggest player I regret fading this year.
Yeah, no, I gotta agree. I didn't get any pieces of Stefon Diggs in any of my leagues this year, and I'm with you. I'm regretting that. I even had someone actually ask me, should I start Diggs over a player like Hollywood Brown the other day, and I said, oh yeah, Hollywood's the guy to go with. And yeah, I didn't look like an expert when I suggested that. So yeah, Diggs is definitely someone who's proven us all wrong. Randy, how about you? Who did you fade and are now regretting?
I'm going to go with another wide receiver, and I'm actually going to go to Aetan's Dallas Cowboys and say that I definitely regret fading Amari Cooper. So far this year, he hasn't been great, but he's been consistent, and that was always the knock on him in the past. And just with what Dallas's offense is doing and what they figure to keep doing for the rest of the season, I'm really sorry that I just faded him. I was just tired of his 40 points one week, 5 points next week, 7, and then another 30. And I was just like, no, I'm not getting trapped again. And so far this year, he's proven us all wrong, and just the way that offense looks, I think he's going to continue to do so, and I regret not having any shares of him. Just faded him completely and don't have him anywhere, and I wish I did.
Yeah. No, Cooper's shown that he. Well, I mean, I guess Dallas, as a whole, has shown that they could put up a lot of points. I don't think Aetan's too happy about the reason why they're having to put up those points, but yeah, it's definitely a pretty prolific offense. So yeah, Cooper is definitely a huge piece of that for sure. Let's stick with our regrets, because obviously we have a lot of them, especially me with my own poor team. Who do you regret drafting? Aetan, is there somebody who you drafted that you're wishing you could have taken back?
Well, before I go into my player, I just because you mentioned the name and it kind of made my stomach turn a little bit. But if you've watched any of the podcasts in the past, you'll know that I definitely didn't want any shares of Hollywood Browns. So the fact to hear that you're telling people to take him over Stephon Diggs is it's just the reason why you're sitting at 0-4 right now, my friend. But the main player I wanted to talk about that I actually am concerned with, I just got to take shots at Tyler because he's the host this week. But the main player I did want to take down a couple spots is DJ Moore. I mean, this is a brand new offense. It's a brand new quarterback, and he's not the main guy there. Robbie Anderson has come in, and he's taken a huge portion of the shares. I thought DJ Moore was going to be a reception machine over there in Carolina, but they're proving that even without Christian McCaffrey, they're not afraid to throw the ball to their running back. They're not afraid to throw the ball to Robbie Anderson, and Moore is kind of looking like the third option there on that team. And I'm on full blown panic mode with any pool that I have Moore in. And if you guys want to trade for him, I don't have him in any pool that we're together with. But if you guys want to trade for him, send me an offer because I'm willing to sell him at this point before his value gets any lower. But I think this guy is going to finish outside of WR1 and WR2. I think he's going to be right around that 25 to 30 range on the season, and that's just not good considering where we all drafted him and all projected him.
Yeah, I gotta say I've been burned by DJ Moore as well. Actually, one place I wasn't burned, I was in an auction draft this year, and my computer glitched, and I was in a bidding war for him, and my computer glitched, and I was not able to put in the high bid that I wanted for him. And I was pretty upset at the end of the draft I didn't get him. But you know what? Turns out it was a blessing in disguise because I'm actually quite glad that I don't have a ton of my budget dedicated to DJ Moore right now. So yeah, I agree. In the leagues I did take him, I'm kind of scrambling to see if I can trade him right now. Randy, how about you? Who did you draft that you're kind of regretting now?
You know what? It's a tricky question for me because we talked about this before the show, and I really racked my brain, and I don't full on regret any pick. So I'm just going to pivot a bit and just say a blanket statement. Any second round I got into where Aaron Jones was available, and that was basically all of them, I regret not taking Aaron Jones. I got a couple shares of Austin Eckler. I got a Miles Sanders, and I would take Aaron Jones over those guys in a heartbeat. And it was one of those things, like Aaron Jones was the RB2 last year, and I just fell for the whole narrative of touchdown regression and the committee backfield and everything. And I feel like a bit of a fool. I really wish that I had just drafted Aaron Jones everywhere because coming out of last season, that's where my mind was. And I just got caught into the whole discussion about it and went elsewhere in a couple drafts where I feel like Aaron Jones was the guy.
Yeah, you know what? Aaron Jones has proved us all wrong. I guess we thought with Aaron Rodgers kind of being disrespected by Green Bay that maybe that whole franchise would fall apart. But you know what? They've been pretty good. So you say you wish you took him in the second round. Are there maybe some first round players that you would take him over? Like what if you had the option going back and knowing what you know now? Yeah. If you were in the first round and you had, say, Clyde Edwards-Helaire on the board, would you take him over Aaron Jones?
Well, that's a silly question. We all know that I have widely detracted Clyde Edwards-Helaire. To be clear, I have come around, and I think he's a great piece, but I still definitely take Aaron Jones over him.
Okay, I think I think Ryan's going to be very sad to hear that. Okay, how about a wide receiver? How about DeAndre Hopkins, who's himself has been someone who's faded and come back? Would you take him or Aaron Jones?
Oh, that's a really tough one. Gun to my head, split second decision. Aaron Jones.
Aaron Jones. Okay. All right, let's move up a little higher. How about Derrick Henry? Derrick Henry or Aaron Jones?
I dislike you right now. Derrick Henry.
Derrick Henry. Okay. So there
Wrong
is a limit. There is
Probably
a limit
the wrong
to
answer, but I am still convinced of Henry's second half prowess, where he is just going to dominate the league. So it's a close one, but Henry for me, that's kind of the cutoff line, I think.
Okay. All right. So Aaron Jones could maybe have gone up to that first round. So that's pretty high.
100%.
Okay, Aetan. Yeah. Okay. Aetan, going back to you. Is there another player that you have also regretted fading?
Geez, I don't remember who we discussed I was going to talk about here. Can you give me a
Quarterback,
hand?
maybe? A quarterback,
gotcha.
maybe?
Yeah. Okay. So thank you. Jeez. Yeah, I remember. I was on the clock here, and I was thinking about trying to decide between Matty Ice and Josh Allen, and I definitely regret seeing Allen go to the wayside. I let him slip in that pool. I did manage to grab him in another one, which I'm floating around 500, and a huge part of me just being 500 is because of Josh Allen. So I definitely regret not going a little bit more aggressively towards Josh Allen, which is kind of funny because I just talked about how I was really excited about Diggs and all that based on this. So there's a lot of regret coming out of that Buffalo offense. It's been very, very successful. I mean, the big player that I was all over and tooting big time this offseason was Zach Moss, and he's the one player that's actually done basically next to nothing. I mean, he probably deserves to be on the waivers, but I just can't bring myself to drop him just yet. But this offense is clicking at such a high rate that, yeah, I definitely regret fading Josh Allen quite a bit, especially for players like Matt Ryan, because we knew what Matt Ryan was. He's a player that's going to throw a lot of touchdowns in some games. When he doesn't give you a good floor. So I definitely kind of regret fading, putting players like Matt Ryan over Josh Allen, because the rushing upside is just so beneficial for a quarterback in fantasy.
Okay. So you're saying you'd jump Allen up quite a bit. So why don't we compare him to some other quarterbacks? So Aetan, I'm going to throw some quarterbacks at you. Tell me if you'd take them or Allen, if you could go back and redraft here. So how about someone who was drafted ahead of him in most leagues? How about Deshaun Watson?
Yeah, Deshaun Watson is really scaring me right now. He needs a make-right game. I mean, they just fired their coach, and they came off probably the worst 3-game start to a season you could possibly ask for, with the Ravens, the Steelers, and I think it was the Chiefs, if I remember correctly, for the first 3 games of the year. I mean, that's just not a fun way to start the season. So, but Deshaun Watson, I mean, he's never really been the prolific passing quarterback. So I think he's only hit 4,000 yards once in his career, and he lost DeAngelo Hopkins. So I'm actually quite low on Watson. I probably actually have him ranked under Matty Ice, to be honest, at this stage of the season. So definitely I would take Josh Allen over Watson.
Okay. How about, let's make it a little tougher here. How about Lamar Miller? Or sorry, not Lamar. I always say Lamar Miller. Lamar Jackson. How about Lamar Jackson?
Yeah, Lamar Jackson. I mean, you can't forget what he did last season. I definitely take Lamar Jackson over him. Josh Allen still has a long way to go for proving longevity of this. So at this stage, I mean, we saw Lamar Jackson say, "This is silly. I'm going to stop throwing the ball," which is good if you're a fantasy owner of Lamar Jackson. And he blew a 55-yard run all the way to the house. I mean, when you see Lamar Jackson doing that, you know he's pissed off, and he probably didn't like the stomping he got in Kansas City. So definitely Lamar Jackson. I mean, I'm not willing to fade him lower than my QB2 at this stage. So, yeah, definitely Lamar Jackson over Josh Allen.
Okay. So there is a limit. That's good to know. Okay, let's come a little bit closer to earth here. How about Josh Allen versus Aaron Rodgers? Who would you take?
Yeah, again, tough one. I mean, I know Randy's going to be all over the revenge tour, but I think I might take Josh Allen by a little bit of a hair, just based on that same concept I was saying with Matty Ice. Aaron Rodgers just doesn't really have that rushing floor. So if they go to a game script where Aaron Jones is running the ball a lot, and say they just keep getting plays where they hit the red zone, and Aaron Jones just keeps punching in touchdowns, I think you can see a pretty bad score from Rodgers that week, based on the fact that he doesn't have the rushing upside. So I would take Josh Allen over A-Rod at this stage in fantasy. Just in fantasy.
Okay, and since we're talking about Aaron Rodgers, that brings me to my next question. All right, so Randy, which non-drafted player or highly faded player should have been drafted in most people's leagues?
Oh, well, I mean, this is an easy one. It's Aaron Rodgers, and I'm just so excited that I can actually talk about this because I was in a league where Aaron Rodgers did not get drafted. 12-team league, just not drafted.
12 teams is crazy because I was in an 8-person league and he wasn't drafted there.
Yeah.
And we were all talking about how this is the first ever league we've ever been in where Aaron Rodgers wasn't drafted.
Yeah.
So the fact that you're in a 12-team league. Yeah.
12-team league, and honestly, the only reason he wasn't drafted is because I never draft 2 quarterbacks, and I already had Josh Allen. So that's basically the only reason Aaron Rodgers wasn't drafted. And Aetan alluded to it. I've been touting it all year. Aaron Rodgers' revenge tour. He is pissed off. Every game is a revenge game. And through 4 weeks, he's done exactly that. He has been pissed off. He's thrown a lot of touchdowns. And he's thrown it to guys like he's not had Devontae Adams for most of the year so far. And he's just like, fuck all y'all. I'm just going to throw 3 touchdowns to Robert Tonyan. Who gives a shit? So for me, that is my super obvious. Just how is this guy not drafted? And I regret just not having him in more places. A tiny bit, just because most of the places I don't have him is because I have Josh Allen. So, yeah, Aaron Rodgers' revenge tour 2020.
Okay, I'm going to play a quick game with you as well. Right now, if you go back, Josh Allen or Aaron Rodgers, who would you take?
You're just very cruel, I mean, yeah, Aaron Rodgers' revenge tour is my thing. But then the last episode, I touted Josh Allen as my MVP. So, Josh Allen, but I hate you a lot.
Okay. All right. That was a mean question. I'm sorry, Randy. All right.
So you're off the revenge tour, eh? He's off. He's not on the revenge tour no more. Revenge tour.
Shut up. Revenge
in peace today.
Nope. Revenge tour is still on. Josh Allen negates the revenge tour. That doesn't mean that it's not happening.
This is Aaron Rodgers might see this someday and it'll just add to his revenge fire probably.
I hope it does.
Yeah, okay. Okay, Aetan, let's go to you. So which non-drafted player in most leagues do you think should have been drafted?
Well, I'm gonna go with a couple here. I know that we were discussing off there. I'd go with Mike Davis, which he's kind of an obvious pick. You're looking at what he's done. He is the handcuff to CMC. We were very high on a lot of handcuffs, but he was kind of forgotten, which is kind of tough to say that you should have grabbed this guy because realistically, CMC has never really had an injury. So it's kind of a weak answer to say that you guys should have drafted Mike Davis because no one was saying to do that in the preseason. Some of the other players that I just want to quickly touch on here is Robbie Anderson. He's actually sitting as the 24th best flex player in the league in the fantasy world right now. So this guy's got an amazing value, and we should have seen the fact that he came from a Gase offense. So that alone should have told you that he's going to have potential to blow up and be a much better player than we've seen. And we've seen spurts of this guy being absolutely dominant. The question has always been consistency. So that's still a question, but so far through the season, he's been very, very consistent. And I think I'm actually going to go with Robbie Anderson as probably the biggest player that people weren't drafting that we probably should have been a little bit more high on coming into the year.
Aetan, you're talking about all these Carolina Panthers. You didn't bring up
No.
the obvious one, my boy Teddy Bridgewater. Come on, this guy's. I mean, we had a. If some of you have seen our earlier episodes, I was highly made fun of because I said with my very last pick, I picked Teddy Bridgewater as a backup quarterback, and Aetan
No,
and
that was your
Ryan tried to
main
laugh me off
quarterback.
the podcast.
Backup quarterback. That was your main quarterback, your one
Okay,
and only
okay.
quarterback in a 12-person league. And you know what? I will concede. I mean, Teddy Bridgewater is an unbelievably good 2 QB. Like, if you're in a super flex, he's definitely holding his value.
Okay, Randy, I'll throw you an easy one here. Aaron Rodgers or Teddy Bridgewater?
Thank you, Aaron Rodgers.
Okay.
Oh, the
I
revenge
didn't-
cheer's back on track.
All right, I'd throw you a softball there, Randy.
Yeah, that
Okay,
that
guys.
was pretty cruel what you did earlier. I'll remember
Okay.
that.
Yeah. All right. Let's talk about something more positive here. So going back and say you got the first overall pick in your draft. Aetan, who are you picking with the first overall pick?
Well, I think you discredit yourself if you said anyone but Kamara. There's definitely a little bit of a scare that once Michael Thomas comes back, he's not going to see the same shares. But based on what we've seen so far from Kamara, I mean, it's just absolutely ridiculous. So definitely him.
Okay. Randy, same question. Who is your first overall pick if you were to go back?
Yeah, 100% agree. Alvin Kamara is the guy. What he's doing so far is just absolutely amazing. Yeah, you can have some concerns about Michael Thomas coming back and what that's going to do, but what he's done so far and him just taking a massive step forward makes him a pretty clear number one for me as well.
Yeah. I gotta agree with both of you, and Aetan, I gotta thank you for trading him to me in one of our leagues that we're in together. So I happen to be in first place in that league at least. So it's a lot to do with Kamara. He's got 7 touchdowns in 4 games. So I don't know if that pace can be kept up, but hey, I mean, first overall pick, that's kind of a production you're looking for. So that was a pretty easy question. Why don't we get a little in depth here? Why don't we say second overall pick? So we all agree with Kamara. So who are you picking second off the board? Aetan. Who are you taking second off the board after Kamara?
Well, based on everything we've seen so far, I mean, there's so many great options here, and you can't really go wrong if you take like the Aaron Jones or the Dalvin Cooks. But I think I'm going to still go with my boy Ezekiel Elliott here. The Dallas Cowboys. I don't know how much closely you guys have watched the games. You guys have all seen the box scores, but this is a Dallas team that's going down by 3 touchdown scores in the first, 2 quarters. So they're just airing the ball out all game. And I mean, Dak's on a historic pace for yards. This is not their game plan. So they want to get back to running the football. They want to get back to, a possession team, which they're just not because their defense has not been good enough. But I think you're going to see Zeke once Dallas gets their game plan a little bit more in tuned, if they can. I think Zeke is going to emerge again as this top 5 running back that you kind of hope and expect from him. So I think at this stage I probably would take Zeke, and you know what? It's because of what you see on the top of the hat here. I'm going to probably be a little bit of a home run on this pick, but I'll go with him.
All right. Yeah, Ezekiel Elliott. I mean, as far as these top running backs, he's one of the few that didn't get injured. So obviously, yeah, he's definitely going to be up there. Randy, how about you? If you had the second overall pick after Kamara's taken, who are you taking with that pick?
I'm going to be a bit surprising here and say that even with the injury that I'm going with Christian McCaffrey. Losing him for 4 to 6 weeks sucks. But think about what he was doing before he went down and think about what he's going to do when he gets back. I know Mike Davis has been a great substitute, but given our history with CMC, if you think the Panthers are going to do anything but run CMC, and even if Mike Davis has earned a 20% share, say, 80% CMC is still probably the RB2 in fantasy, and it's not even close. So I am definitely just going to go with CMC here.
Right. And you make a great point that a fantasy championship is not won in the first half of the season. Like CMC is going to be back for that second half of the season, especially in the fantasy playoffs, and that's where a guy like that is obviously going to help your team. So that's a great point. Is there anybody else that we're forgetting here? Aetan, is there anybody else that we haven't mentioned that should be talked about in that top echelon of players?
Yeah, I briefly touched on two of them there, but definitely Aaron Jones. I mean, he was the RB number 2 last year, and right now he's the RB number 2 again. So I don't know why people like to fade him so much, and myself included, considering I just said I would take someone over him. But this guy is an absolute touchdown machine, and he's on a very prolific offense that's very, very smart. They don't have to deal with crowd noises, so Aaron Rodgers is just absolutely melting defenses on the line, looking at how they're lining up and audibling to the plays he wants, or doing hard counts and pulling them offside. I mean, this is a season made for players like Aaron Rodgers to run an offense. So Aaron Jones is definitely one. And then the other one is I'll let Randy talk about the other one actually. So I'll pass it over to him for the other player that definitely deserves recognition for second.
Yeah, and we're just going to pivot right to the RB3, a guy who, when he was healthy last year, was on pace to be the RB2. Dalvin Cook. I mean, there's always going to be questions with his health. He's had problems every year he's been in the NFL, but it's undeniable when he's on the field, he is a top guy. So he's definitely in the conversation there. I just, like we were talking about, I think the injury aspect just brings him down a shade. And going back to Aaron Jones, I mean, was personally in a matchup this week where I needed some Aaron Jones magic, and watching him get spelled by Jamal Williams all night was frustrating as hell to watch happen. And I think just that tiny little thing that they don't give Aaron Jones the full workload just takes him back a step.
All right, so it sounds like we're all still running back heavy. Even going back, we're all going to go with running backs as our first overall pick. I'm going to throw out one wide receiver that I think we all faded and we only touched on briefly. I think DeAndre Hopkins is someone that we've all seen has proven that he's still the player he was when he was in Houston. He's getting the target share that we all expected to go down. The last couple of weeks, the Cardinals are not as efficient as they have been the first 2 weeks, but Hopkins is still getting his targets. He's still getting huge yards, and he will find the end zone more often than not. So that's somebody I would say. I would say as far as when you get past those upper echelon of running backs, I think DeAndre Hopkins is the top fantasy pick that I would take off the board if I were in that maybe that 4 or 5 spot around there. Okay, guys. Well, go ahead.
Yeah, I like what you're saying for sure with Hopkins, but I still think if given an opportunity to take Michael Thomas or Hopkins, you still go with Michael Thomas over Hopkins, injury and all.
Right. Yeah. Well, like we were saying, I mean, championships are won later part of the season, so Thomas with an early injury is not going to affect your championship aspects as long as you make it in the playoffs, which my CANAM team happens to have Michael Thomas, and I don't like to use scapegoats, but you know, maybe the fact that Thomas has been injured is why I'm 0-4. So we'll see. We'll see if he can help me bounce back because he's supposed to be back week 5. This has been fun. We've been talking about what we learned and what we would have done differently after the first quarter of the season. But you know what? Down the road, probably halfway through the season, we'll probably do another show similar to this, and we'll probably have some different answers. There'll be different guys who get injured. There'll be different guys who've gone off. And it'll be fun. It's going to be a fun season. There's going to be a lot of different changes. It's definitely a different season with the situation going on in the world. So you never know what's going to happen. So make sure you're following the news, follow podcasts like ours, and hopefully you'll be able to win your leagues. Ryan likes to end the show with, what did you learn today? I'm going to, since it's the end of the quarter season show, let's talk about what we've learned this season so far. So Aetan, what have you learned this season?
I've definitely learned that you can never have enough running back depth, that's for sure. It's you know what I think another thing I've learned is guys, don't be stingy on your fab budget. You know, with the amount of running backs that have gone down, there's been some very good replacement players that you probably just didn't get because you were like, oh, there's going to be someone better. There's no one better than these guys that are going to step into prominent roles right away. So spend your fab, especially by this point, if you still have a lot. I mean, there's not any real sexy players to grab off waivers this week, but you know, don't be stingy with that. I see it every year. There's people that are very close to the chest, and they think that people are overpaying for players. But you know, if you want to go out and spend $40 for Mike Davis, guess what? You look like a genius right now because you're getting solid production out of him for multiple weeks. So I think that's something that people always need to hear and always need to learn. And people make the same mistake every year. I know I've done it in pools before, and I'm trying to be more aggressive with my fab this year. And so far, I'm very happy with the results that I've gotten personally.
All right, that's a very good point, Aetan. But I mean, you could get burned. I got burned by spending about 26 on Naheem Hines, but you know, that's another story. We'll talk about that later. Randy, what have you learned in the first 4 weeks of the season?
So far, just 2020 being what it is, I've learned that this football season is going to be wildly unpredictable, and how you're going to survive is just adapting to it. And it's something I'm guilty of myself. I tend to get sticky on certain players. Like I just bet a shot on Evan fucking Engram. It's just, you got to adapt to what's going on in the league, especially with all these injuries. And I think more than ever, you just have to be fluid with your roster decisions and try to just keep the best team you have going forward and not be afraid, like Aetan touched on. Don't be afraid to spend your fab when you have a hunch on a good player. Like personally, I saw Mike Davis coming a mile away and I did nothing about it. I didn't even put a waiver claim in on him, and I regret that. It's just, just adapt to the situation that we're in here in 2020 and go forward. Don't get too stuck in your ways.
Yeah, that's a great point, Randy. I think we all think of ourselves as the smartest people in the room, so it's hard to admit when we're wrong. So that's a great point. I would say the thing I learned is that, and I feel like I learn this lesson every year and then I forget it around draft season, is that quarterbacks can win you leagues. And we've seen a few guys go off completely, like Russell Wilson, Dak Prescott, Josh Allen. We talked about Aaron Rodgers. These guys can win you your league. So if there is a quarterback who you're thinking is going to go off next draft season, maybe go after him. Don't be afraid to draft a quarterback in the 4th and 5th round. I had a situation where we were on a clock. It was a clocked draft, and it was the 5th round, and I was looking at David Montgomery, and it was the day that he got injured in practice preseason, and I was reading his update, and I took too much time, and it auto drafted Dak Prescott, and at the time I threw up my hands and said, I don't want a quarterback now. This is ridiculous. And guess what? It's the best thing that ever happened to my team. I'm in first place because I accidentally drafted Dak Prescott that day. So anything I've learned is that I got to stop fading quarterbacks during draft season because a lot of them can hit, especially the ones that you do your research on. All right, guys, that's pretty much it for our episode. I just want to remind you that, I was reading. We're not experts here, but we're having a lot of fun, and we love fantasy football. We like to bring knowledge to you. I was reading Randy's blog, and he mentioned there's a difference between analysts and enthusiasts. So we're enthusiasts. We love football, and if you're looking for more advice from enthusiasts like us, we're going to be here all year. We're giving you guys advice and giving you guys our opinions. And if you like what you see, like and subscribe to the CANAM podcast. Like and subscribe to our YouTube channel. And we're doing a little drive for 500 here, 500 subscribers. And I'll let Ryan tell you what's going to happen once we get there.
Join us in our drive for 500 subscribers, and you could win a signed Amari Cooper jersey. Are you new to the channel? Give us a like, subscribe, and click the notify bell. It helps a ton for a new channel like ours. We're going to have a random draw for a signed Amari Cooper jersey shipped anywhere in North America. So go ahead, click subscribe, and thank you for watching the CANAM Fantasy Football Podcast.